he was like, you know, I can see the thinning. He was talking about my edges. I'm like, don't start, like, you know, you trying to tell me that my edges are thinning, and I don't appreciate it. Hey everybody, I'm back with a part 2 video to go over my symptoms and the story of my diagnosis. So I hope you're ready for story time. So I'll just get right into it. So with my diagnosis, this has been like a 4-year ordeal. Maybe, I think, so I'll say back in the end of 2015 is when I noticed the first symptom. I noticed that my fingers and toes would get numb, and what alarmed me was that the tips of my fingers would change colors. So they would be kind of like a pale looking color, blue, sometimes white, and that kind of like stuck out to me, and I was like, yeah, something's not right. Let me go see what's going on. So I went to medical. For those of you who don't know, I am a Navy veteran, and I served, and pretty much while I was in, this is when things started, while I was in the military. And I was stationed in Virginia. I'm also from Virginia too, just to give you like a little backstory. So yeah, so I went to medical, and for those of you who are veterans yourselves or are, you know, in the military, you already know how things can go as far as getting medical treatment in the military. So I went there and was pretty much brushed off. I was told, like, hey, you should wear some gloves. You know, it happens to all of us, you know, whatever, whoop-de-whoop. And I was like, no. I think I was like 23 at the time. And I was just like I know what, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know what it feels like to be cold, and that feeling. Like, I shouldn't, on a regular day, I was feeling as if I was picking up ice, like holding ice. That's how it felt like. Or I was playing in snow. Like, that's the level of, you know, numbness and, you know, discoloration that I would get to my fingers. And I was just like, something isn't right. So anyway, I was like, okay, you know, whatever. The guy he didn't even want to take my vitals at the time. And so I had to like tell him, like, at least, like, okay, well, at least check my vitals, because for me it was important for it to be put on record that I even showed up to begin with, because I didn't know what was going on with me. So I'm like, I want it documented that I was here. So at least take my vitals, you know. If you're not gonna prescribe anything or take any next steps, let's do that. So I did that. I left. I ended up going to I ended up going to Langley, which is a military medical facility in Hampton, and I ended up going over there because I was just like, you know, I know for a fact they're going to look into this and just figure out what it is and give me some answers, and I can move on. The biggest issue was that, like, by that point, my fingertip, not only my fingertips were changing colors, it was almost all the way down, like, to my palm. And I'll probably show a picture of that too, as well, so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And if, you know, you've never experienced that before, it's a little freaky looking, you know. Like, I couldn't explain it to nobody, you know. And I'd be like this to my friends on, you know, on the ship, and I'd show them, and they'd be like, man, like, what's wrong with your hands? And I couldn't see the bottoms of my feet, but I felt as if they were doing the exact same thing, because they were just as numb as my fingers were whenever, you know, that would occur. So anyway, went to Langley, and the doctor there was pretty much saying, you know, oh, that's Raynaud's, that's what we call it. It is a lot more common, you know, than you think, but for about 80% of the people, it's just a thing that happens. For about 20% of people, there's an underlying condition that's causing it. And we're just going to run some tests, and just to just to kind of weed it out and just see which category you're in. So I'm thinking like, okay, all right, it's weird, but okay, I'm cool with it. Got some tests done, and basically the doctor was just like, yeah, you have lupus. And I was like, what? This is my first time hearing that word ever, and I'm just like confused. He's asking me about my family history, and like, does anybody in your family have any of these autoimmune conditions? Going down, he was just like, yeah, your rheumatoid factor is high, your Smith, your ANA is high. For any of you who have autoimmune diseases or chronic illnesses, you probably are familiar with those terms or acronyms, but basically they were off the charts. And he was just like, I'm gonna send you over to a rheumatologist so that way they can do a larger panel of tests and really pinpoint and see, what it is. But he was like, I'm pretty sure you got lupus. And I was like, man, so I leave. I was there by myself, so like I'm like distraught. I walk out of there and I call my mom. I'm on the phone crying because I'm just like, Mom, like, this is what the doctor just said. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And she basically just told me like, just wait and see. Like, you're gonna do more tests and get more tests done, and that God has the final say. So don't worry about it. She just encouraged me. So I was like, okay, and I felt better about it, and I moved on. I was like, all right, and I waited. So anyway, fast forward, I get to the rheumatologist. I go to the rheumatologist, and they did like, I think I had like 17 vials of blood drawn. I've never had that many tests done like in one setting, but they did a full workup, and the results of that came back not long after, and basically everything else was off the charts too. I don't know all the names of them. I'll probably have to look those up and maybe discuss it in another video. I don't know, but I know for anyone who has autoimmune disease, you probably know the terms and stuff like that. But yeah, so they were like, yeah, right, as of right now though, this is also military doctors that I got sent to. This was at Portsmouth Naval, I think. And they were like, yeah, so all these readings are abnormal, like everything else. So I'll say my cholesterol, my sugar or glucose, what are other things they were testing for? Yeah, I don't know, all that stuff, all the I guess standard things were normal. But as far as my white blood cell count, and not the count, but like the types, it's the types of blood cells, white blood cells that are present. There's some that don't necessarily belong in your body, not at all times or something like that. They're not supposed to be a high level of them, and they're only present in certain illnesses. So at the time the doctor was just like, well, looking at you and what you tell us versus your paperwork and the Raynaud's, your lab work and the Raynaud's condition, those are only two indicators, so we don't necessarily want to diagnose you yet. And they were like, there's a whole list of criteria that you have to meet to for us to officially say it's lupus. So I'm not diagnosing with you with lupus. You don't have lupus. That's what they told me. So they pretty much said that. When I left, I was just like, I called my mom. I was just like, I was just thanking God, I was praising God. I'm just like, whew, they said you don't have it. And that was just relief for me. So they were like, what, this is what we're going to do going forward. We're just going to monitor you. So every 3 months, for the remaining time that I was in the military, I had to go get that blood work done every 3 months, and I would get checked in and or a checkup, and the doctor would go over and ask me a bunch of questions, pretty much just checking on my health, seeing how I'm doing. At the time, I was working out 5 to 6 days a week, sometimes twice a day. I was in the gym, and I had no issues with that, no issues with fatigue or anything at the time. So the doctor was just like, you are extremely healthy. And so he started his own research and was thinking like, okay, well, maybe who's to say that other people aren't walking around with these abnormal readings, their blood. We don't test this, we don't test, take these type of, what did it say? We don't we don't test for this often. This isn't something we test people for, unless we have a reason to. So he was like, I could have them. So I could have abnormal, blood results too. And so anyway, he was just kind of like, just pretty much trying to let me know, like, don't worry about it. Like, you look really good, you're healthy, whatever. Only issues I had at the time, though, the symptoms I did have at the time were that I didn't know what they were linked to until later on down the road. And that was hand cramping. I noticed when I would work with tools and stuff like that at work, holding them, at a certain point or doing certain turns after a while, my hands would cramp up, and it was like be hard to hold the tools. Another thing would be like grocery bags. When I would go grocery shopping, I noticed that if I was holding something like this, like, my hands would just be like, I don't know how to describe it. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like when your hands get kind of like, they just cramp up, and it's like you just want to relieve them, and pretty much relieving them is the way to relieve them is by letting them go, and just kind of stretching them out and whatever. So that was it. That, and then I would wake up sometimes and my knuckles were sore, but I was doing a lot of push-ups. Like I said, I was working out so much back then that, if for me, anything could have been linked to anything. I never thought that anything that had to do with lupus symptoms. So anyway, so what happened next? Yeah, so for the remainder of the time, I went to go get seen and by the doctors all the way up until I got out of the military. When I got out of the military, I started working, and that's probably when I started noticing more symptoms when I got out. I was experiencing a lot of fatigue, but I thought that was due to work. I was getting frequent headaches. I was getting headaches like once, maybe twice a week. 3 was kind of extreme, but some weeks I would have like multiple headaches in 1 week. And I later ended up finding out they were actually migraines that I was having. But my pain tolerance was so high that I didn't really notice that. And also just, I guess, lack of knowledge, just not even knowing what a migraine was. But basically, my headaches were always in the same spot, like the right side of my face. And the only way that I really would find relief would be to like lay down. And so normally I would just try to like hold out until the evening. If I caught a headache in the middle of the day or closer to the evening, I would, just rest. I would go to bed, and by the morning it would be gone. So that was that. Just some anxiety. I was experiencing a little bit a higher level of anxiety. I was just attributing that to the transition, getting out of the military, just a lot of stuff going on. Starting a new job, new career outside of the military, stuff like that. So, but those were all symptoms. Those were all symptoms. Like I said, but at the time I didn't know. My hair was shedding a lot. But that had been happening for like maybe 2 years or so, and I didn't really think much of it. My hair was like really, really, really thick. And so it wasn't like a noticeable, it was shedding, but it wasn't like thinning, so it wasn't nothing that was alarming to me. I just kind of thought, okay, maybe it's stress, and then also that's just what my hair does. So, I just got used to it. It was annoying, but I was like, it's just my hair. My hair likes to shed, so whatever. Left it alone. Fast forward, I moved to California. I get enrolled into the VA Healthcare Center out there in California, in San Diego, and I get linked up with a rheumatologist out there. They do a whole new panel of blood work. So this is, mind you, this is 2019. So we fast forward 3 or 4 years later, and at that point they've already identified migraines, the hair shedding, the anxiety, the physical issues, like I had knee pain in my joints and my knees. I would just be sitting and I could feel throbbing, or if I'm laying in bed, especially after a day where I'm like extremely active. My job was really physical, so that wasn't uncommon for me to pretty much be walking and moving all day long. And so I would shower and get into bed, and I would wake up the next day and or sometimes even in the middle of the night I could feel this kind of light nagging pain in my knees and stuff like that. So I was just like, okay, well, It could just be, they also did mention that I could have rheumatoid arthritis. And to be honest with y'all, I don't even know. I mean, it may sound ignorant to choose which illness, I don't want any of it, but I guess at the time, knowing what I know, I was like, you know what? Arthritis runs in my family, you know what I mean? Rheumatoid arthritis, okay, that's like another level of, but I was thinking like, if I had arthritis, okay, maybe it's just that, we can, but lupus to me just sounded like a death sentence, to be honest with you, at the time. Now that I'm a little more educated on it now, I know that it's not. And being a believer, I try not to even rest on ideas like that. So anyway, I'm at the San Diego healthcare system. I'm enrolled, and I get in touch with the head of rheumatology. So I go in for my appointment. At this point, they've already got my blood work sent over, and the new blood work. It was like updated, and he walks in and he's just like this face, like kind of really concerned looking, but nice at the same time. And he's just like, yeah, so you have lupus. He was like, we're not going to play around with it anymore. We want to go ahead and start treatment now. He was like, you have a mild case, but your symptoms are obvious, And he's like touching my head, and he's like looking at my hair. This was before I cut my hair. He was like, I can see the thinning. He was on my edges. I'm like, don't start. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking like, you trying to tell me that my edges are thinning, and I don't appreciate it. I was just like, well, okay. I did notice it. I'm not even gonna lie, but I thought it was because of some braids that I had. I didn't know it was like a symptom of, like, they call it alopecia. Like any form of hair loss is considered alopecia. We always equate it to, like completely balding or no facial hair, no body hair at all. But I guess apparently there's levels to alopecia. So yeah, he was like, that's a symptom. He was like, these migraines you're talking about. Then this is what he did, y'all. Mind you, at this point, I'm emotional again. I was trying not to cry, like in the office. It was upsetting to me, And once again, I'm by myself, right? No family around, nothing. I'm in California. I'm in California at this point. So I'm just like trying to take it in and trying to listen to him and just breathe and just, okay. He's just like, let me try something. And he starts throwing these math problems at me, y'all. And so he's throwing the math problems at me, and I'm answering them right. And he's just like, he was trying to test me for brain fog. And that's like another symptom, some of you guys might know that too, where it's like you either, I think you get stuck, or you have trouble focusing, trouble thinking, you just got clouded mind. And I told him that that's something that I had, that I felt sometimes, and so he was like, yeah, it might be brain fog. He was like, that's associated with lupus. So let me do some math problems. And he's shooting these numbers at me, y'all, and I'm answering right. And I mean, I in my heart of hearts, I know I'm getting them right. He was like, no, you actually missed quite a few. He was like, I'm gonna schedule a brain MRI. I was like, oh wow, like, I'm laughing about it now. At the time, it wasn't funny, y'all, but it's funny now because of like, what you trying to say, doc? Like, he basically trying to say like my elevator don't go to the top, or I'm not registering, these numbers. And like, y'all, I'm not even lying to you. Like I thought I was like, but he was like, you're slow to answer. Like, he was just saying all this stuff. And anyway, thankfully the results of the MRI came back clear. Like, everything was good. Everything was good. There's nothing abnormal about my brain MRI. my skin, except that little dip at the top of my head. I got a dip, y'all. I saw my skull, and I was like, I knew it was there. I always knew it was there, but to see your actual like shape of your skull, and you see the little dip at the top, it's like it's humbling, to say the least. Anyway, so that happened. Yeah, he diagnosed me. Was like, yeah, so we're just gonna start. We're not gonna play around with it. You haven't had any major episodes, and we want to try to prevent that, because I guess with the flares, they cause, like, when one happens, they cause damage pretty much, because your body, your cells are attacking your tissues, and so to avoid them or reduce the flares, that's what the medications for, the treatments that they have to try to prevent that. So they were like, we want to keep your case, want to keep it quiet is what they call it. They call it, keeping it quiet. And yeah, so anyway, so that's where we're at now. And so this issue was with the whole, diagnosis thing. They call lupus the great imitator. And they call it that because all of the symptoms of lupus could literally be linked to anything else, like any other illness could give you migraines. You could just have migraines just because you have them, with no underlying condition. You can have anxiety and just have anxiety, or some traumatic experience could have caused it. My military service, fatigue could be linked to something else. Anemia. And that actually is something else that I take iron pills for that, for anemia. But anemia is one. That could be hereditary. It could be something else. There's so many other things. And what else am I missing? The hair thin and hair loss, that's due to stress. And then the thing is, stress can cause your lupus to flare up. So it's like, and outside entities can cause stress. So it's just, that's why it was so hard for them to pinpoint the disease, because of all the list, but I guess it wasn't until more, though, like a collection of those symptoms started to become visible, on paper, and they're like, now they're able to paint a picture, and that's pretty much what they were trying to do from the beginning, is paint an overall picture. And now you're able to kind of like link it all together. It's almost like, if you ever seen I'm picturing like a detective's board, and they're trying to, they have this one person, but they're linked to all these other people, and they're trying to like kind of draw it all together to be like, okay, and now we see how you guys are connected. And that's exactly how it is with the symptoms, and that's why they came to the conclusion they came to. Anyway, I hope that was helpful, and actually me sharing my experience of being diagnosed, and also with information. I had some, people were asking me questions. I got some DMs last time I posted my video, and I'm hoping that is helpful to some. But you guys always feel free to reach out, comment, ask me questions, and I would love to answer them and engage, because like I said before, I think this is like an opportunity for community, you know what I mean? Whether, we're talking about health, talking about wellness, a way to get better, next steps, just kind of sharing information, tips, techniques, whatever it is. I hope I'm not leaving anything out. I did want to share this story. So the one story episode I had when I was in the Navy, I was doing maintenance on a freezer, and the freezers like we had on board the ship were like, they were the size of like a small house. I don't even know if that's like a good analogy. Maybe like you put like 2 master bedrooms together, and that was like the size of the freezer. So it's a walk-in freezer. Anyway, I had to do maintenance on an RTTD, and I basically had to go inside the freezer, unhook it, unscrew it, and all that. And mind you, I'm suited up to go in the freezer. I have on gloves and everything. I was in there for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and I had to walk out. Because number one, my fingers were so frozen that I couldn't feel the tools. And secondly, they were like in pain. I was hurting. And so I step out, and when I step out of the freezer just to kind of get a break, like my pain level went up to like a 9. Like it was intense. Like my eyes were watering and everything. Because I guess the process with Raynaud's, whenever I have an attack, they call them attacks. Whenever I have an attack that's that intense, basically the process of my hands like trying to warm themselves back up, or the blood pouring back to my fingers, or whatever it is, I still don't even know. It's like it hurts like really bad. So I'm like doing everything I can. My hands are so cold, but I'm trying to like put my hands against my skin and just trying to warm them up. I'm like tucked like this. And I think the maintenance, it was supposed to take maybe like an hour to do. It ended up taking me like 2.5 hours to finish, because that's what I was doing. I had to keep coming back out to warm up so I could finish. And I stayed down there. I was determined to finish my work. I didn't want to make an excuse at the time, and just the way I was, I didn't want to ask for help, at the time, just the way I thought back then. And I went back to my office or my shop, and I basically told my LPO, which is a supervisor, I told him, I was like, hey, listen, I finished my maintenance, but please just don't put me on any more maintenance that requires me being inside of a freezer or refrigerator. Like, you're gonna have to assign it to somebody else, because there's just no way. And that was my truth. Like, there was just no way. Like, I did not want to go through that again. That was the worst. So from, that point on, I always knew, like, even right now, like, it's literally, now it's a habit to rub my hands like this. Like, it's a habit. Because, like, even right now, I can feel them just a little bit cold. I didn't explain that part about the Raynaud's, was that, I have a text during the summertime. It doesn't matter. Like, if I go wash my hands right now and I come back if I wash I'll say this, if I wash my hands and I step outside and say it's like 60, 70 degrees outside, that temperature change alone will cause a Raynaud's attack, and my hands will, get really cold, and they'll start to, change colors, around the tips. And depending on how long, I guess in that state, they will start to get numb too. But I kind of know now, like, how to just, immediately just kind of warm them back up if I can. I remember I was on the beach one night in California, and it was just, I had a jacket on. It wasn't freezing, but it was just cold enough that my hands and my feet were. So, I'm on the beach, and I was out there with some friends, and we're dancing on the beach. And, like, I didn't want to tell anybody, but I could not feel my feet. I felt like I was just, like, dancing on bricks. And I, was kind of motioning. I was like, all right, y'all, I'm gonna catch y'all later. I gotta slide. And I ended up leaving. But it's like, it gets to a point where you don't feel anything, and that's dangerous. So anyway, but that's just part of it. That's, like I said, that's where it all started. If it wasn't for the Raynaud's, it kind of just led to, it kind of opened up that window, I guess. I think that's it. I have a few Raynaud's stories, but those two are like, the main ones. But anyway, I forgot to add the main symptoms that I experience now, for the most part, is fatigue. I have my days where I just feel like I'm either like tired, just my energy is really, really low. It's hard to get out of bed sometimes. I have days where I'm really good with just laying in bed all day. And I'll say the same thing as far as the joint soreness here and there. And the migraines, for the most part, those have subsided. I'm down to about, it just depends. I've had months where I still would have one every week, at least once a week. And sometimes they'll skip where I have one every other week or so. So that's good. Oh, I've also experienced fevers, and that's about it. so far up until now. All of my results as far as my organs, because that is something that they test for when you go in for your, periodic checkups. They always run tests to make sure your organs are working properly, because this is a illness that attacks every part of your body, including your organs. And obviously, if your major organs are affected at any point, that's something that they have to take action on. You have to make sure you treat that. So, thankfully, thank God for that. They call it an invisible illness for some of the reasons that I just named, all those internal issues that go on, mental struggles too, that, and a lot of people don't understand it, or, there's a quote that I guess a lot of people with chronic illnesses hear from other people, is that, you look fine. And that's just, it is what it is, that's a part of it. And unfortunately, some people don't necessarily treat others the way they should, who have a chronic illness, because they don't appear to be ill or in any state of discomfort when they probably are. There's a possibility they're in pain, or just uncomfortable, or extremely tired and just trying to push through and make it and keep up with everybody else. So anyway, I just wanted to address that part as far as the invisible illness goes. I'm not trying to, I'm not going to say that I struggle every single day, but I feel a symptom every day. And I'm finding ways, I'm navigating and finding ways to overcome them as I go along. Be encouraged. If you're a person who suffers from chronic illnesses, from a chronic illness, be encouraged. Know that I am praying for you, and everything is going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right. That's all for now. Ask questions if you have them. Please do. I'm so open to communicating with you all and just spreading awareness and just having a conversation in general. That's all for story time, y'all. I want to thank y'all for watching. Until next time, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and most importantly, spread love.